A star demanded co-director credit. Clint fired him and made a new star. Clint Eastwood was 3 weeks into production on a major film when his lead actor, a rising star named Daniel Cross, who had been commanding $3 million per picture, walked into his office and made a demand that would end his career. Daniel wanted co-director credit. He believed his creative vision was shaping the film as much as Clint's direction. When Clint calmly said no, Daniel threatened to walk off the production unless his name appeared alongside Clint's in the credits. What happened next took exactly 15 minutes. Daniel Cross was fired. An unknown actor named Michael Torres, working as a background extra, was given the role of his life, and the entertainment industry learned a lesson about the difference between talent and ego that they would discuss for decades. Clint's office on the studio lot was simple. A desk, a few chairs, some framed photographs on the walls. Nothing that announced wealth or power. He had never believed in surrounding himself with the trappings of success. Daniel Cross entered without knocking. He was 28 years old, handsome in the way that got young men cast as leading men, confident in the way that came from being told repeatedly how talented he was. His last 3 films had performed well at the box office, and his salary had tripled in 2 years. He sat down across from Clint without being invited. "We need to talk about credit." "What about credit?" "I want co-director." Clint's expression didn't change. "Co-director? I've been contributing significantly to this film. My ideas, my instincts about character, my suggestions for scenes, they're shaping what we're making. I deserve recognition." "You deserve recognition for acting. That's what you're being paid for." "I'm being paid for my talent. My talent extends beyond performing in front of cameras." Clint leaned back in his chair. "Let me understand what you're asking. You want your name to appear alongside mine as director of this film. Co-director. It's not unprecedented. It's unprecedented for an actor with 3 years of experience to demand directorial credit on a production he didn't create, didn't develop, didn't finance, and doesn't control. I've contributed. You've contributed your performance. That's valuable. That's why you're being paid $3 million. But contribution to a performance isn't direction." Daniel's jaw tightened. "You're not hearing me. I'm telling you what I need to continue on this project. And I'm telling you that what you need isn't available. Then we have a problem." "Do we?" Daniel stood up. "I'll walk. I'll leave this production today if my creative contribution isn't recognized in the credits." "You have a contract." "Contracts can be negotiated. Lawyers can find ways out. The question is whether you want to spend the next 6 months in legal battles while your film sits unfinished. So, you're threatening to breach your contract unless I give you something you haven't earned." "I'm stating my position. You can call it whatever you want." Clint was quiet for a moment. "Let me ask you something, Daniel. In 3 years of making films, how many have you directed?" "None. But how many scripts have you written?" "That's not the point. How many productions have you managed? How many editing decisions have you made? How many cinematographers have you worked with to establish visual language?" "I'm learning." "You're not learning. You're demanding credit for work you haven't done and don't understand." Daniel's face had reddened. "You're treating me like a child. I'm treating you like someone who just made a serious miscalculation." "Miscalculation?" "You walked in here thinking your leverage was greater than mine. Thinking that I need you more than you need me. Thinking that your talent is so irreplaceable that I'll give you anything to keep you on this film. Isn't it?" "No." The word landed like a physical impact. "You're replaceable, Daniel. Everyone is replaceable. The question isn't whether the film can be made without you. It can. The question is whether you understand what you're throwing away by making this demand." "I'm not throwing anything away. I'm establishing my worth." "You're establishing that you're difficult to work with, that you'll hold productions hostage for personal glory, that your ego matters more to you than the work. That's not fair." "Fair doesn't matter. True matters. And what I've just learned about you is true." Clint stood up. "You're fired." Daniel's expression shifted from anger to shock. "You can't fire me. We're 3 weeks into production. I can fire anyone who isn't essential to this film. You just proved you're not essential. The studio won't allow it. They approved my casting. The studio will support my decision because I've delivered profitable films for them for 15 years. You've delivered 3 adequate performances in projects other people created. You're making a mistake. Maybe. But it's my mistake to make. That's what being the director means, making decisions and living with the consequences, something you clearly don't understand." Daniel was silent for a moment. "If I walk out of here, I'll make sure everyone knows what happened." "Good. Tell them exactly what happened. Tell him you demanded credit you hadn't earned, threatened to breach your contract, and got fired for it. See how that story plays in the industry." Daniel left without another word. The door closed behind him, and Clint sat down at his desk to consider what had just happened. He had fired his lead actor 3 weeks into production. The scenes already shot would need to be refilmed. The schedule would need to be adjusted. The budget would need to absorb the cost of starting over. None of that concerned him as much as the alternative. Giving Daniel what he wanted would have set a precedent. It would have announced to every actor on every future production that demands could be made, that leverage could be applied, that ego could override professional boundaries. Clint had built his career on refusing to accept those terms. Now he needed a new lead. The casting director arrived within the hour. "I heard what happened. What do you want to do? Find someone who can do the role without believing they deserve to direct the film. That narrows it down." "Good. Narrow is what we need right now. Any preferences? Type? Experience level?" "I want someone hungry. Someone who understands what an opportunity looks like. Someone who won't walk in here in 3 weeks demanding things they haven't earned." "So not a star." "No, not a star. Someone who could become one." The casting director spent 3 days reviewing possibilities. She screened established actors who might be willing to step into a complicated situation. She considered television performers looking to transition to film. She evaluated young actors from theater programs who had technical skill but limited screen experience. None of them felt right. On the 4th day, she was walking through the studio lot when she noticed a group of background extras waiting for their call time. They were the invisible workforce of filmmaking, people who filled crowd scenes and provided atmosphere without speaking lines or earning credits. One of them caught her attention. He was reading a book while the others chatted and checked their phones. His posture suggested something beyond the disengaged waiting that characterized most background work. He was present, alert, engaged with his environment even while absorbed in his reading. She walked over. "What are you reading?" He looked up, dark eyes, strong features, the kind of face that communicated intelligence. "Screenplay analysis. I'm trying to understand structure better." "You want to be a writer?" "Actor. But I think understanding structure helps with performance." "Have you done any principal work?" "Small parts, nothing significant. I've been doing background for 2 years trying to learn the business from the inside." "What's your name?" "Michael Torres." Clint agreed to meet Michael Torres that afternoon. The meeting was brief. Clint asked questions about Michael's background, his training, his understanding of the role that had suddenly become available. Michael answered simply, without the self-promotion that characterized most actors in such situations. "I know I'm not an obvious choice," he said. "I don't have the credits or the experience, but I understand this character, and I understand what an opportunity like this means." "What does it mean?" "It means everything I've been working toward for 6 years. It means the chance to show what I can do at a level I've never had access to before. It means I won't waste it." "How do I know you won't walk in here in 3 weeks demanding co-director credit?" "Because I know what I don't know. I don't know how to direct. I barely know how to act at this level. What I know is how to work hard, take direction, and give everything I have to the performance." That's a good answer. It's a true answer. That matters more. Clint made the decision that evening. He would give the role to Michael Torres, an unknown background extra with no significant credits, no industry reputation, no established audience. The studio was skeptical. "You're replacing a $3 million star with a background actor?" "I'm replacing an actor who couldn't handle the responsibility with one who might be able to." Might be able to. We're talking about a major production, which I'm directing, which means I'm taking responsibility for decisions like this one. The marketing will be complicated without a name. Good films create names. We'll market the story, the quality, the performances. If Michael delivers what I think he can deliver, the name will follow. Michael Torres began work the following Monday. He arrived at 5 a.m., 2 hours before his call time. He wanted to walk the set, understand the space, visualize the scenes he would be performing. The crew watched him with a mixture of curiosity and skepticism. Word had spread about what happened with Daniel Cross. Some people saw Michael as an improbable replacement. Others saw him as someone who had been in the right place at the right time. Luck rather than talent. Michael understood the skepticism. He didn't try to overcome it with charm or promises. He simply worked. He knew his lines perfectly. He took direction without argument. He asked thoughtful questions when something wasn't clear. He treated every crew member with respect, understanding that filmmaking was collaborative and that his success depended on people whose names would never appear in credits. The first week was difficult. Michael was learning on the job, adjusting to the pace of major production, the technical demands of hitting marks and maintaining continuity, the psychological pressure of knowing that his performance would be judged against expectations created by someone else. Clint worked with him patiently. Not coddling, Clint didn't coddle anyone, but guiding. Explaining the logic behind directorial choices, demonstrating how small adjustments in timing or positioning could transform a scene. By the second week, something shifted. Michael's natural ability began to merge with the technical skills he was developing. His performances became more confident, more nuanced, more compelling. The crew noticed. The skepticism that had marked their initial assessment began to fade, replaced by something closer to respect. Meanwhile, Daniel Cross was discovering the consequences of his decision. His agent had tried to spin the departure as creative differences, the industry euphemism for conflicts that couldn't be politely explained. But word had spread about what actually happened. Daniel Cross had demanded co-director credit and been fired. Other productions that had been considering him began reconsidering. Offers that had seemed certain became less certain. Phone calls that should have been returned went unanswered. The industry was small, and reputation mattered. Daniel's reputation had transformed in a single afternoon from rising star to difficult talent, the kiss of death for actors who hadn't yet accumulated enough success to justify their demands. He watched the trade publications for news about the production he had left. He saw the announcement that an unknown actor named Michael Torres had been cast in the role. He assumed the film would fail. Production continued for 3 more months. Michael Torres worked every day with the focus and dedication of someone who understood exactly what was at stake. He didn't complain about long hours. He didn't demand special treatment. He didn't attempt to influence decisions beyond his responsibility as an actor. He simply performed, and his performances were remarkable. Clint recognized something in Michael that he had seen in very few actors: the ability to be fully present in each moment, to respond authentically to the circumstances of the scene, to create truth rather than merely performing it. The dailies confirmed what Clint was seeing on set. The footage was excellent. Michael was delivering something beyond what the script required, bringing depth and humanity to a character that could have been merely functional. Principal photography wrapped in late autumn. The cast and crew gathered for the traditional end-of-production celebration. Michael Torres received a standing ovation from the people he had worked alongside for months. Clint pulled him aside. "You did something remarkable. I did what you gave me the chance to do. I gave you an opportunity. You made something of it. Those are different things. I don't know how to thank you. Continue doing what you're doing. Make good choices. Don't let success change who you are." Is this success? The film isn't released yet, but what you've created, yes, that's success. The rest is just whether other people recognize it. The film opened the following spring. Critics praised Michael Torres's performance as revelatory, the emergence of a major talent from complete obscurity. Audiences connected with his portrayal in ways that validated every decision Clint had made. The film performed well at the box office. Not blockbuster numbers, but solid, sustained business that indicated genuine audience appreciation. The kind of success that came from quality rather than marketing. Michael Torres became a name. Interviews, magazine covers, the sudden attention that accompanied transition from unknown to known. He handled it with the same quiet professionalism he had brought to the production itself. "What's it like going from background work to starring in a major film?" an interviewer asked. "Disorienting? Wonderful. Terrifying. I'm still processing it." "What advice would you give to other actors in similar situations?" "Be ready. Do the work even when no one is watching. Understand that opportunity can come at any moment, and when it does, you need to be prepared to meet it." Daniel Cross's career never recovered. He continued working smaller roles, lower-budget productions, the kind of work that actors accept when the better offers stop coming. His salary dropped from $3 million to $300,000, then lower. He watched Michael Torres's rise with a mixture of bitterness and incomprehension. He didn't understand what had happened. He had been the star. He had been the one with credits and reputation and proven ability. How had an unknown background actor replaced him so completely? What Daniel never understood was that talent wasn't enough. The industry was full of talented people. What distinguished the ones who succeeded from the ones who didn't was often something harder to measure: character, professionalism, the ability to serve the work rather than demanding the work serve them. Daniel had demanded. Michael had served. The results spoke for themselves. Years later, Clint Eastwood was asked about the incident in an interview. "You took a significant risk firing an established actor and replacing him with someone nobody had heard of. What made you confident that decision was right?" "I wasn't confident. I was certain that the alternative was wrong," meaning Daniel Cross thought his talent entitled him to things he hadn't earned. That's a fundamental misunderstanding of how this business works. Talent is necessary but not sufficient. What matters is what you do with your talent, how you treat people, how you approach the work, whether you understand that filmmaking is collaboration rather than personal glory. And Michael Torres understood that. Michael understood that he was being given something precious, and that the proper response was gratitude, not demands. That understanding made him someone worth taking a risk on. Do you think Daniel could have been as good in the role? He could have been competent. Michael was extraordinary. There's a difference. Michael Torres and Clint Eastwood worked together on 3 more films. Each collaboration built on what they had discovered in that first production, a working relationship based on mutual respect, clear communication, and shared commitment to quality. Michael never forgot where he had come from. He mentored young actors. He supported programs that helped unknown performers develop their skills. He remained humble about his success while working to deserve it every day. At an industry event celebrating Clint's career, Michael was asked to speak. "Clint Eastwood gave me my start in this business. But more than that, he taught me something about what it means to be a professional, about how to treat people, about the difference between talent and character." He looked at Clint, who was seated in the front row. "I was a background extra when he took a chance on me. He didn't see someone without credits. He saw someone who was willing to work. That willingness is what he responded to, and it's what I try to honor in everything I do." A star demanded co-director credit. Clint fired him and made a new star. The story became part of Hollywood legend, a cautionary tale about the dangers of ego and an inspiring example of opportunity created from crisis. But the deeper lesson wasn't about firing or hiring. It was about values. Daniel Cross valued credit, the external recognition of contribution that he believed he deserved. He was willing to sacrifice his role, his relationship with a legendary director, and ultimately his career to secure that recognition. Michael Torres valued work, the opportunity to do something meaningful, to contribute to something larger than himself, to develop his abilities in service of a shared goal. The film industry, like most industries, eventually rewarded the second set of values over the first. Not always, not perfectly, but consistently enough that the lesson was clear. Talent opens doors. Character keeps them open, and demands that exceed what you've earned tend to close doors permanently. A star demanded co-director credit. He was fired. A background extra was given the role of his life. He became the star the first man had thought he already was. The difference wasn't talent. The difference was understanding that being good at something doesn't entitle you to anything except the opportunity to keep being good at it. Everything else, credit, recognition, reward, follows from that foundation, or it doesn't follow at all.